This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. China's hardline rulers showed today how much they're in command now. The party Central Committee fired the moderate General Secretary Zhao Ziyang, and the Army propaganda chief took over as editor of the government's official People's Daily newspaper. To underscore the government's new confidence, it allowed American television to broadcast live from Beijing via satellite for only the second time since the crackdown. John Sheehan has our report.
Supreme Leader Deng Xiaoping officially dumped another protege today, but left the Communist Party's major problem unsolved. How to keep China open to foreign money and technology, but keep out Western ideas about democratic rights. The new head of the Chinese Communist Party is Jiang Zemin, party leader from Shanghai, a Soviet-trained technocrat with a reputation for attracting foreign investors to his city. He is credited with suppressing the wave of angry protests in Shanghai that followed the massacre 3 weeks ago in Beijing.
I think Deng Xiaoping wanted to put a new face, but to reinforce his old policy, which is that he is for economic reform, but he is not for political reform.
Ousted in disgrace is the 69-year-old head of the party, Zhao Ziyang. He is the second party chief in just over 2 years to lose his job for being soft on student demonstrators. He is said to have opposed the military crackdown on unarmed demonstrators at Tiananmen Square that led to heavy loss of life. Zhao hasn't been seen in public since last month when he made a conciliatory visit to hunger strikers at the square. Zhao has been stripped of all official posts, but was not expelled from the party. The Central Committee announced, however, that he remains under investigation. China's Central Television showed what it said was a unanimous vote to fire the party chief for the mistakes of supporting turmoil and splitting the party.
With Deng Xiaoping turning 85 in 2 months, there are now some new contenders in the lineup to succeed him. The party is trying to look unified, but the differing factions remain. And the real power struggle could very well still lie ahead. Bob?
John, how do you think all this is going to play? What's the mood in Beijing right now?
Well, Jiang Zemin, the new party head, has provably one of the least secure jobs in China, so he's going to carry out his mandate with enthusiasm. That means more arrests of intellectuals, professors, and a heavy dose of political education in the universities.
Thank you, John. Communist Vietnam said today that colleges will improve living conditions for students and give them more say in decision-making. The concessions follow Vietnam's first student protest in 35 years. And a new four-man leadership team named today in Hungary is dominated by supporters of democratic change. Effectively removed as top leader is Karoly Gross. He remains Communist Party General Secretary, however. Suspicious Israeli security officials questioned an American relief worker today about his 30-hour abduction in the occupied Gaza Strip. We have more on that now from Martha Teichner.
At Chris George's office in Gaza today, nobody was talking. Reporters were not welcome. His home on the West Bank looked deserted. His phone rang unanswered. The happy ending yesterday to his bizarre kidnapping was followed today by a rain of political fallout. Israeli authorities say they are suspicious of the incident because Chris George refuses to cooperate with their investigation and seems sympathetic to his captors.
Toward my captors, I have mixed feelings. But the experience hasn't affected the way I feel toward Palestinians, West Bank and Gaza Strip.
In Gaza, authorities continued their search for the kidnappers, begun Thursday. Chris George reportedly won't say where he was held, although he knows Gaza well, and has identified only one of his abductors, Mohammed Abu Nasser, a Palestinian militant who once asked for his help in building a playground. After his release, Chris George thanked the Palestinians for their help, not the Israelis.
I am especially grateful and moved by the show of support from all levels and all sides of the Palestinian community.
Alon Liel, spokesman for the Israeli Foreign Ministry, described George's account as strange and said the Palestinians don't deserve any credit. It's just an encouragement to repeat this kind of activity, he said. The next time the guy will get killed. In fact, Chris George has said his kidnapping was a deplorable crime. One reason for his apparent refusal to cooperate with Israeli authorities, he wants to go on working in the Gaza Strip. But he probably won't get the chance. If he doesn't leave the country on his own, the Israelis may force him to go. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, we'll have reports on the 3 big oil spills in American waters today, and later the scandal that's shaking the foundation of the U.S. Housing Department.
Life's
Late innings for Pete Rose. A judge will decide tomorrow whether the baseball commissioner can hold a hearing on Monday on gambling charges against the Cincinnati manager. But as the judge was making up his mind today, some longtime Rose fans seem to be changing theirs. Gary Reeves reports.
Program souvenirs.
Almost 40,000 streamed into Cincinnati's Riverfront Stadium today to watch what some predict will be hometown hero Pete Rose's last stand as Reds manager.
I'll save the ticket stub, so it might be his last day as manager. It might be worth something later on.
This has been a tough week for Pete Rose fans. In this town where most have stuck by him, reports that experts have found his fingerprints and his handwriting on baseball betting slips has shaken the faith of all but his staunchest supporters.
I thought it was mostly false accusations from other people, but now I think that Pete has probably done a few things that he's sorry about doing, and I think he's been a disappointment to a lot of fans.
Now on Cincinnati's west side, where Rose grew up, the talk at the sports bars has shifted from whether he gambled on baseball to how he should be punished.
If he is found guilty, I think that he should have a penalty and pay and suffer some of the consequences of going with that, but not for the rest of his life.
If he needs to be reprimanded, let's reprimand him, but let's not kick him out of baseball. That's giving him the death sentence. On the nearby Pete Rose ball fields, the same diamonds where Rose played as a boy, many of the little leaguers who are old enough to understand think Rose has let them down.
Kind of makes me mad because this guy that you look up to all these years may have cheated and betted on baseball.
Cincinnati's children still aspire to Pete Rose-style accomplishments, but each day here, fewer and fewer aspire to be Pete Rose. This afternoon, Rose told his radio audience he hopes to be the Reds manager for the next 10 years. Gary Reeves, CBS News, Cincinnati.
Hold out your finger,
The
please.
Turkish government organized a massive protest rally today in Istanbul. It was directed at neighboring Bulgaria. The demonstrators were protesting Bulgaria's deportation and alleged repression of ethnic Turks. Bulgaria has forced out some 60,000 ethnic Turks this month alone. In Tehran, the cabinet was briefed today on the historic visit to Moscow this week of Iran's top leader. The trip came less than 3 weeks after the death of the Ayatollah Khomeini. Anthony Mason in Moscow has that.
It was a strange picture. The speaker of Iran's Islamic parliament smiling with the leader of an atheistic superpower, the country Ayatollah Khomeini once called a satanic force. But the package of economic deals which Hashemi Rafsanjani took home to Iran this weekend means the two countries have become, in the Soviets' favorite words this week, very friendly.
It's happening because Iran is desperate for help with constructing its economy. Its economy remains shattered and in a state of collapse. And the Western states that have the money, such as the Americans, the Europeans, the Japanese, haven't got the confidence in the leadership of Iran to invest there.
In Moscow, Rafsanjani also went shopping for military hardware for Iran's battered army. He left with the kind of promise of cooperation that the Soviets reserved for their closest allies. Gorbachev gained too. The photo sessions alongside Rafsanjani will ease worries of Iran's Islamic Revolution spilling over the border into Soviet Central Asia. Muslims are the Soviet Union's fastest growing minority, and when riots in Uzbekistan earlier this month killed nearly 100 people, Gorbachev declared that fundamentalism had bared its teeth. Rafsanjani did not challenge that remark. We have agreed, he said, not to interfere in each other's internal affairs. Rafsanjani said it was time to forget the past, something he is as yet unwilling to do with the United States.
But the Soviets insisted they weren't trying to score political points off the West. Said one official, surely it's good for the whole world that the Iranians are talking to someone. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
A ceasefire took effect today in Angola after a 14-year civil war that claimed more than 100,000 lives. It's part of the new peace agreement between the Marxist government and rebels backed by the United States and South Africa.